All right, guys, so I'll be honest, minoxidil results are generally disappointed. If you've tried minoxidil for hair loss, there's a good chance you were disappointed. Roughly 1 out of every 2 users will see no response whatsoever and will continue to lose hair. For most of the remaining 50%, regrowth will be minimal, barely visible to the naked eye. Even in the best case scenario, where minoxidil does work and you see some regrowth, this effect will peak around the 1-year mark. After that point, its effectiveness will start to decline as your body builds resistance to its mechanism of action. By the 2-year mark, your hair is likely to be back to where it was before you started treatment. Now, this is the best case scenario, stabilization of your hair loss. And keep in mind, minoxidil was approved for crown hair loss, whereas most guys will end up using it on their hairline, where it was never FDA approved. Partly due to its weak results, minoxidil monotherapy has a very poor treatment compliance. In other words, the large majority of men who start minoxidil will quickly abandon it. A study that came out last year found that only 12% of users who were prescribed minoxidil by a physician took it for more than a year. By the 5-year mark, this percentage is close to 0. So how can you beat these odds? How can you get amazing regrowth and be satisfied with a treatment that you want to continue long term? The answer is pretty simple. Stack your treatments. Okay, so let's dive in and discuss the best ways to improve your results from minoxidil. Number 1, improve the formula. For starters, there is no excuse for you to be purchasing a standard minoxidil formulation. This was developed in the 1980s. The science of hair loss has evolved since then, and we know today of numerous topicals that are also effective. And because these various compounds have different mechanisms of action, their combined effect will be greater than any one of these on their own. For example, in the years since minoxidil came out, we've had multiple clinical studies showing the benefits of topical caffeine. It's been shown to stimulate hair follicles and prolong the anagen phase of the growth cycle. This translates to thicker, longer hair shafts. In the description, I've also linked to a very own Minoxidil hair growth serum, which is prescription free. Aside from caffeine, it also includes adenosine, azelaic acid, and various other active ingredients. There is no reason whatsoever to be using a bog standard minoxidil formulation in 2024. So if you haven't done so already, go check out Minoxidil. It's like minoxidil, but with maximum power. Number 2, microneedling. The second thing to add to your stack is microneedling. This will improve the treatment's effectiveness several times over. Let me give you some numbers. A bog standard 2% minoxidil formulation will give you, on average, 8 new hairs per centimeter squared of balding scalp. The more powerful 15% formula increases this to 15 hairs. But combining minoxidil with regular microneedling sessions takes you to a whopping 50 new hairs. That's roughly a 6-fold increase compared to 2% monotherapy. So there is no excuse whatsoever for going through all the hassle of once or twice daily minoxidil only to skip out on a complementary treatment that you'll have to perform once a week. That's only for the first few months, because after that point you can reduce the frequency of microneedling to once every 2 or 3 weeks. You can also grab a high quality 1mm derma roller at hairguard.com. Number 3, scalp brushing. Scalp brushes are very simple and inexpensive devices, but don't be fooled by this. They can still do a lot of good for your hair. The soft, flexible bristles on the brush remove dead skin cells, dandruff, and serum buildup, meaning that if you use a brush for a few seconds before the minoxidil, it will be applied directly to the scalp rather than being blocked by the debris. This improved penetration can lead to better results. The gentle brushing can also help improve circulation and boost blood flow, just like minoxidil. Scalp brushers are cheap, easy to use, and improve the effectiveness of topicals, so there's literally no reason not to be using one. Which brings us to the next point. Number 4, scalp massages. If you're not already using scalp massages for hair loss, then you are missing out on one of the most effective yet underappreciated treatments available today. We touched on this briefly when discussing scalp brushes, but did you know that impaired blood flow is one of the hallmarks of male pattern baldness? Balding men show decreased blood flow precisely in those parts of their scalp that are going bald, but the healthy parts of the scalp show no such impairment. Overall, men in early stages of baldness have 2.6 times lower scalp blood flow compared to those with healthy hair. We also know that minoxidil helps to reverse this deficit in blood flow, which is almost certainly part of the reason it's effective against hair loss. The problem is that the boost in blood flow that it causes is brief. It maxes out after about an hour to an hour and a half after application, and then it quickly fades away. Scalp massages increase blood flow in a natural, non-pharmaceutical way over the long term. And unlike minoxidil, there are no side effects, meaning you can do them as often as you want. And we know that the results are dose dependent, meaning the more you massage, the better results you can expect. Now, because massaging with your bare hands can become quite tedious, an alternative is the Grow Band. This clever device sits around your head, freeing your hands and massaging your entire scalp simultaneously. So you effortlessly get much quicker results compared to manual massages and are much more likely to stick with the treatment long term. The Grow Band has been gaining massive popularity in the last year or so, and users are getting good results whether they use it alone or in combination with other treatments like minoxidil and finasteride. It's only available at hairguard.com, so head over to the website to see more case studies from Grow Band users. Okay, last but not least, let's move on to number 5, DHT blockers. One last thing you can do to boost minoxidil's effectiveness is add a DHT blocker to your hair loss stack. Finasteride and dutasteride both work in a similar manner by inhibiting the enzyme that converts testosterone to DHT. Dutasteride is stronger, reducing DHT levels in the blood by around 90% compared to 70% or so for finasteride. It's also slightly more expensive, but for historical and marketing reasons is a distant second to finasteride in popularity. As you'd expect, the combination treatment of a DHT blocker with minoxidil is a more powerful treatment than either drug on its own. A 2015 comparison study out of China found that 59% of balding men treated with minoxidil improved compared to 80% on finasteride, but for the men who used the combination of both drugs, this figure went up to 95%, which is quite a dramatic improvement. A milder alternative is to use a natural plant-based DHT blocker. These are freely sold on the market without a prescription, and while they are less effective than finasteride, they likely have fewer side effects. The most popular ones are saw palmetto, reishi mushroom, pumpkin seed oil, pyjium, and stinging nettle. Either way, if you're using minoxidil and do have aggressive male pattern baldness, you will need to address the DHT in some manner in order to achieve the best possible hair growth outcome. Microdosing DHT blockers can help reduce side effects but still produce good results. Okay guys, so make sure you head over to hairguard.com to check out the products. We've got Minoxidil, the Grow Band Pro, along with a scalp brush and derma roller, and you can also see the latest case studies. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment if you got anything in your mind, and I'll see you soon. Take care.